The Selfish Path to Romance. Download Chapter 1 for free at drkenner.com.
I think I'm going to give it all up. Why do people have to love people anyway? What do you call it when somebody keeps getting smashed up in automobile accidents?
Bad insurance risk?
It's me with men. I was jinxed from the word go. First time I was ever kissed was in a cemetery. His name was George, and he threw me over for a drum majorette.
Now, it's crushing when you see your romantic relationship crashing. And that was from The Apartment with Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon. And we have a situation here with a woman who writes that she and her fiancé have been together for 11 years. And they've only been engaged for the past 2. Now, he's a professional athlete. He travels a lot. But before he left on his last trip, which was a month long, they were at each other's throats. So she actually felt relieved when he left, and my guess is he felt that way too. He comes back from the trip. Now they're finally engaged after this 11-year romance, and he drops a bombshell. He says he wants out of the relationship, and she says that, please, this is totally a bombshell for her. And he goes, okay, listen, I'll give it a 1-month shot, provided you don't talk. Now, how are they going to communicate about any of their problems? How are they going to resolve anything? He just doesn't want to talk about any issues. He just wants to see how things work. So she feels totally stuck, and I'll answer her question coming up. And have you ever had a fallout with a really, really good friend, and the friend now wants nothing to do with you? You try to call, you email, over and over again, you reach out, and one day you're sent a legal notice saying, lay off or else. Now, how do you deal with the loss of a friend that you had felt so close to? One listener still wants to reach out to this woman, and I'll help her coming up too. Another listener asks, how does he reduce his intense, inappropriate laughing when he's embarrassed? So if he goes to meet a girl, he gets real nervous, and he doesn't come across as anyone polished or self-confident, and he says his dad did the same thing, so I'll help him coming up too. Also, there are many books by scam artists. There are books also written about scam artists, and there are people who specialize in that field, in finding scam artists and exposing them. Later on in the show, I'll be discussing this with Dr. Ed Buckner. He's a specialist in psychological scams. He knows the tricks that scam artists use. Many of them are religious people too. They prey on religious people, and they are allegedly religious. I'll tell you that only one type of praying will heal your ailments. These tricks are clever, they're well documented, and we'll expose some of them later on in the show. I'm Dr. Ellen Kenner, and my show's The Rational Basis of Happiness. And even though it's not therapy, I'm a clinical psychologist, and that means you can ask me any question that you would want to ask a counselor or a therapist. My number's toll-free, 1-877-Dr. That's toll-free, 1-877-Dr. And right now we're going to turn to the phone lines and speak with Suzanne. Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What's your question?
My 3-year-old has recently developed an aversion to going outside, and I need to know how to help her through that. We were caught in a thunderstorm about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
And since then, she will not go outside.
Okay, so what happened during the thunderstorm? Can you give me the world through her perspective? What happened and what you suspect, what terror you saw in her eyes, if that's the case?
That's probably the hardest part. It was just raining when we walked to the car, and I had my 2 children, my 6-year-old and my 3-year-old, with us. And I was putting my 3-year-old in the car. She was actually already in her car seat, and I was buckling her when it just started pouring, buckets and lightning, thunder. And it was one of those awful mom moments because my 6-year-old was not in the car yet.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get my 3-year-old buckled in and trying to encourage my 6-year-old to get in the car. And it was just chaos. And after I got them both in the car, we were all, my 6-year-old and I were drenched. We actually had to go to the doctor. She was fine at the doctor.
Oh, really? Oh, you were en route to the doctor?
I was en route from school to the doctor.
Okay.
For a regular checkup.
Yeah.
And she was fine, but the next, starting the next day, she just wouldn't go outside.
Okay, so did she say anything to you, like, I'm afraid it will happen again?
All she says when we go out, like when you try and take her outside, she goes, no rain, no rain. And she holds her hands over her head like she's trying to protect herself from getting wet.
Okay. Well, at least you know specifically what happened. With a lot of parents, the kids will have a fear and they have no idea when it happened or how it happened. Maybe it happened with a babysitter. If this had happened with a babysitter, you might, and if the babysitter never shared it to you, this might be totally puzzling to you. But it makes it much clearer that you know that it's thunder and lightning. So if she can know what she needs to learn, partly just by exposure, partly gradual exposure, that when she goes out it's a sunny day. She's got to go through days that are rainy and that nothing happens. Or you can watch a movie. She's 3 years old, maybe a little young for this, although I showed my kids this movie 100 times over in their childhood, Singing in the Rain. Okay. Because it was a movie that showed rain in a very positive light. There may be some Disney movies, none of them come to mind right now, but you may be more in tune with them, that show rain. Everybody's hoping for the rain, and finally it comes and all the flowers grow and good things happen. Mm-hmm. So she needs to be able to have two categories in her mind. Thunderstorms, and then as she gets older, I used to always get the little science books for my kids, the playful ones at the library, the ones that were geared to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, picture books. And I would explain it to them that there's nothing bad that's going to happen. Now, you say that, lightning can do harm. We were hit 3 times in our home, go figure. But for the most part, most people go through life, and it's just a romantic time for many people. You hunker down and you stay inside and watch the lightning storm like fireworks. You might even show her some fireworks that are fun, because that makes a loud noise.
It's not the noise.
Yeah.
I know it's not the noise.
Oh, it isn't. It's the rain?
I think it's the rain. Because, as an example, it's beautiful where we are today. And I was just taking her to music class this morning, and we got to the car okay because she knew she was getting in the car. But when we went at music class, they took them outside for a few minutes, and immediately the hand went up, and she started crying and just very anxious and wouldn't, we were only out there for 5 minutes, and she wouldn't participate the rest of the class, and that's her favorite thing to do. Okay,
so right after the break, we'll continue with this. And I'm Dr. Ellen Kenner on the Rational Basis of Happiness. My number's toll-free, 1-877-DRKENNER.
Here's an excerpt from The Selfish Path to Romance, the Serious Romance Guidebook by psychologists Drs. Kenner and Locke.
Just as with any important goal in life, don't be passive when searching for a partner. True, someone might just come along, but there's no guarantee of this. It's better to be proactive. Proactive doesn't mean desperate. Desperation will tempt you to move too fast, and disappointment is likely. There are many ways to meet people: through friends and acquaintances, through work, through organizations you belong to, during singles activities, through professional dating or matchmaking services, or through personal ads in magazines, newspapers, or online. The Internet has proven to be a tremendous boon to people looking for romantic partners. It is replacing some conventional dating services.
You can download Chapter 1 for free by going to drkenner.com, and you can buy The Selfish Path to Romance at amazon.com.